welcome back to Global Gaming Women's Fair Game Podcast here at the beautiful Light and Wonder Studios. I am so happy to be joined by my fellow co-host, Anika Howard. How are you?
I am wonderful, Bronwen. It's so good to be here. It's always lovely when I get to be here in person. And this has been a crazy year so far. So this is a rare occurrence and I'm happy about it.
Yes, we're so happy to have you in the studio. Oh, we love it. We love Anika time. Oh my goodness. I am so excited for the conversation today. Another spotlight series of the season. And today we're going to be featuring Brooke Thomas. She is the Vice President of People, Equity, and Inclusion at Seminole Hard Rock, but also the founder of LGBTQ plus in gaming, which I'm so excited to chat with her about. But I'm really looking forward to the conversation today. Brooke is just so interesting and so fun. She has the most magnetic energy and personality. I think people are going to be just so inspired by her journey, but we'll dive into her origin story, what brought her to her career, really interesting conversations around kind of her mindset on the topics, that she works on. And then also, right, the people side of AI transformation, right? You can't talk about successful AI transformation without talking about workforce and culture evolution, change management, right? All the things around the people side of transformation.
But no, absolutely very timely conversations, especially as you lean into AI. And you're right, she's just a magnetic personality.
Yes.
And I had a chance to work with her and collaborate with her on a lot of the work that she's doing as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing about her story and her journey.
Yes. And honestly, as a musical theater kid myself, and she comes from the arts and she'll tell us more about it, but I resonate a lot with, kind of that origin story of arts and performance, right? Really instilling a lot of, the traits that make you successful in a corporate career. But I'm just going to remind you, Anika, you also have an arts background, and we have not heard your saxophone yet. So,
touche, Miss Soprano. So, kind of, I think there's a duet in our future somewhere.
Oh, I love it. I would be down.
But
I would be down.
I think that would be a great idea. We'll pull Lauren in and we'll make it a trio.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I love it. And Brooke said she's an alto, so we can have
here we go.
Have going on. Wow.
I think there's something here.
Yes.
So maybe we can quit our day jobs.
Oh my gosh, the Global Giving Women trio or quartet.
Yes. But no, I think what you were saying is very true. I feel like when you have this art background, it really lends itself to really thinking outside of the box, being able to be creative, seeing patterns, being able to, I think, lean into your emotion and your kind of emotional intelligence. And so I think there are a lot of things that are some of those things that are traditionally considered soft skills, but we have learned are core leadership traits.
Yes.
And I think also the interesting thing, because I had a lot of engineers, because in many cases music is math, right?
Yeah,
so you have a lot of engineers and patterns. And so I've had engineers and programmers as well as executives that are in the arts. And so I like to see people leaning into that and talking about it too, because it also makes me see that I have my people in this industry.
Yes,
so it's great.
Exactly. I totally agree. I feel like my time in music and theater really was the core foundation for my career success later in life. Yeah. And especially the confidence that, it gives you from, I feel like I'm a better public speaker because I was a theater kid. Yeah. And I feel like I am able to have, more confidence walking into a room alone because I'm like, all right, I'm going to, put myself into this mindset, right? There's this confidence that comes from being on stage, from performing, from being in front of an audience, that I think is just so instrumental for career success later on. So I think it's so important. We always talk about how important sports are, right? Yeah. 94% of women in C-suite positions played sports over half at the collegiate level. I would be curious the stat for, the people who are in arts, theater, music. Yeah. I would love to know that. Yeah.
Me too. That'd be interesting to dig into maybe.
Yes, maybe we'll find out. But can't wait to hear about Brooke's story. The Spotlight series is all about shining a light on unique career journeys of women in our industry who have broken barriers, changed the game, had those unique experiences, with the intention of stories being permission slips. So you never know when hearing about somebody else's journey might resonate and become a catalyst for beautiful changes in your own life and career. So let's bring Brooke in. Let's hear it.
Sounds like a plan.
Yay.
Thank you.
Okay, Brooke Thomas, welcome to the Global Giving Women Fair Game podcast.
I can't stop smiling. So thank you so much for having me. It's just
Yes.
such a pleasure, and I love what you're doing here, and I'm really excited to join you.
Yes. Oh, we are so excited to have you. And all the way from Florida. Thanks for coming out to Vegas.
Anytime.
We love it.
It's a little warm, even for me. So I was like
South Florida to the desert.
blasting the AC in the cab on the way here.
Yes, you need to here. I know we have this joke in Vegas. If you see somebody wearing like a sweatshirt in the summer, they're probably local because the AC
absolutely.
is so intense.
And I love it here because just like Fort Lauderdale, if you're here 10 or more years, you're automatically a local.
Oh yeah,
Right? I
I'm
think
at
it's
6.
about that.
I'm
6?
almost there. 4 more years
You're
to
almost
go.
there. I could even say 5 and up, but you know what I mean? Because we're such transient places in gaming. We move
Yes.
everywhere.
Yeah.
So once you know the lay of the land and you don't need GPS to get somewhere, you're a local.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, ways not needed. But we are so looking forward to diving into your background, your origin story, your career journey, the hot topics that you're focused on right now. And just so thrilled to have you here. You are just such a ball of energy and the perfect people leader, I feel like, to be in this space. And so excited to chat about all things people, culture, transformation. Just so excited to hear about what got you to where you are today, because you've made such an impact in the industry. And so peeling back the layers is going to be fun. So let's start with your origin story. Where did you really get the inspiration for your career path, and what started your journey?
I was really lucky, and my mom really fostered a sense of passion in whatever I wanted to do. And when I turned to her at 12 years old and said I wanted to be an opera singer, she said, all right, let's figure this out. So I ended up becoming a professional opera singer, and it was the best thing I could do early in my career. I fell in love with so many different languages and so many different people, singing in 6 different languages and meeting people from around the world and singing professionally was so incredible. And it's where I got my work ethic. That people are like, well, what does that have to do with what you do now? I said, it's my work ethic. I mean, we've been in class all day, rehearsal all night, practice rooms in between. I didn't have the typical college or entry-level career experience because I was working 20 hours a day. I'll never forget my first contract, and I was in New York. I was sleeping on a floor, and I think the first contract I got $400 every other week.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, I called my mom. I was like, I made it. You know what I mean? It was amazing. But what was amazing is even in that industry, in the arts, where women are, there's so many amazing roles for women, so many opportunities. I saw a lot of inequities. I saw a lot of challenges. And I remember talking with one of my mentors, who's an opera coach, voice coach, and I was talking to her about some of these disparities. And she said, you have such an eye for these things. Like, you should go to law school. And I laughed in her face. And a year later, I was enrolled at Ohio State, Moritz College of Law. And it was what I saw in the industry, in the arts, that really spurred me to think more deeply about equitable practices. What's the difference between the policy or the culture that's written down and that informal culture, which is what is allowed and what people get away with that isn't called out, right? And that's the difference, right? A culture isn't what's written down in your welcome packet at an organization, right? It's what you see on the day-to-day. It's what people get away with.
Yeah.
And it's what's not addressed, right? So it was really amazing, and I started consulting and doing DEI work pretty much right out of law school. And I started doing, inclusion consulting for industries across the globe. I was lucky enough to work with entertainment companies, massive pharmaceutical companies, lots of tribal gaming organizations. And that's how I really got exposed to the uniqueness of tribal entities and how uniquely they work and their governments. And that was so fascinating. I mean, just as a lawyer, I just loved it, and still had the opportunity to work through so many industries and really dive into. The gift of consulting is you get to kind of go in and I call it Swiss cheese work.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You poke holes.
Oh, I love that.
Right? You poke holes. I'll
love
always,
that.
look, if you hire me as a consultant, and I'll find a problem. You know what I mean? Because that's my job.
Everybody's got a problem.
Exactly.
Yes.
I'll find, I'll find the challenge, but what I loved is it exposed me to so many industries, and it exposed me to gaming. And gaming to me is such a unique industry. I can't describe it. And I was just talking with one of the Global Gaming Women colleagues outside, and we were chatting, and She just said, this industry is just so small. And I was like, it is so small, but it feels so
Tight-knit.
big for opportunities.
Big for opportunities and tight knit. I love that. That's a good way to say it.
So when I had the opportunity to switch full time to gaming, the question was not, it was just like, yes, when? Like, let me do this, because I found the industry so welcoming, so unique, and one of the last industries where you can go from, really entry level to the top. I think there's still so many opportunities for that, and we see that disappearing.
Yeah.
We see some of those barriers coming back, this resurgence, and I think they've always been there. There's waves, but that's why I love this industry, why I find it so unique, and why I've made it my home.
Yes, yeah. And that adds to that tight-knit, really camaraderie feel. Like everybody is in it together. I think that's a really good way to say it. I mean, that's why I love the gaming industry. That's why I came back to it. It's addicting to be a part of that community that does have so much opportunity ahead. And I love what you said about culture, right? It's not what's written down, right? We always say at Insight Global, it's the collection of shared beliefs, values that an organization sees working, and it's what becomes that shared norm that people feel comfortable in. You're exactly right. It's not what's written down. It's so much more, I think sometimes people think culture is this fluffy buzzword, but it is actually so much more tangible than that.
Yeah.
So much more tangible.
And it's work.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's what's the reminder to me. And when people tell me, oh my gosh, my organization has a great culture. And I'm like, tell me more about not only how you got there, but how you sustain it.
Yes.
Think about culture. I always tell my teams, I think about it like a muscle.
Yes.
It takes 5 weeks to build and 5 days to atrophy, right? Like, so you have built this incredible culture and we did it, right?
Yeah.
And then you sit back and you rest on your laurels and you look up and it's gone.
Yes.
Right? Because
it's fragile.
It is. And it has to be sustained by the people. It has to be sustained by trust.
Yes.
And it has to be sustained by investment. And I don't mean fiscal investment, right? I mean emotional investment of the leaders. People leaders, it's so much work to do well.
Yeah.
And we all know. I mean, everyone's had a bad leader.
Yeah.
That's what I always ask people when I'm speaking. I go, let's go around the room. Tell me the worst piece of leadership advice you got. Because there's terrible advice out there.
Oh my gosh, I want to ask, but I don't want to.
No, I want to know yours. So what's the worst piece of leadership advice you've ever got?
Okay. Oh my gosh, I love this.
Yeah, I love it. I want to know.
Oh my gosh. Immediately coming to mind. I had a leader actually who, and I was, well into my career at that point and had achieved a lot of success. And I was starting in a new role, and that leader told me to pretend that I was starting from scratch. And just
I turned away from the mic for my loud laugh.
Yes. And just to follow her lead. And I was like, no, like I'm good on, I've achieved my own accomplishments, right? I'm not going to forget about them to just be on your team. That's not how this works.
I love
And
that.
so
That's amazingly
yes.
bad. It's
Wait,
so
okay,
bad.
So what was your worst leadership advice?
Well, I might just have to pause because everyone has it.
Yeah.
At the top of their head.
Yeah.
And it is,
You're like
or the
instantly-
top of their heart. It stays with you.
Yes.
It's disheartening.
Yeah.
Like, it's disappointing. And then it makes you question yourself.
Yeah, you're right. You're right.
You probably sat with that and went, oh my gosh.
Should I be starting from
Yes.
scratch? Did I not do a good
and
job?
isn't that
Yeah.
wild?
Yes.
Right? And that's the power of, I think, look, everyone, if you ask the best advice, everyone has their canned answer.
Yeah.
It's like someone told me to believe in myself. And I'm like, okay, great. Like, that's lovely and that's beautiful.
And that does stick with you a bit.
And that
like
is great, yes. But everyone has that, piece.
And that negative can take over
Yep.
the positive, right? That can outshine that. That can be what keeps you up at night. That can be
Yes.
what makes you doubt any step that you take moving forward, right? Always having that little voice in your head.
100%.
So yeah, it's dangerous. It's such a slippery slope.
Yes.
It's such a slippery slope. And I think too, a really important thing about leadership and culture is that it needs to be tied to results, right?
Yes.
There has to be that connective tissue. But wait, before we dive in, I need to hear yours.
Oh my
Worst
gosh,
leadership
the worst
advice.
advice I ever got. Oh, it was so great. And look, we ride for everyone in this podcast. It was a man. I'm not saying, I'm sorry. I really wanted it to not be a man. But he was, or it was early in my career. I was doing, consulting work, inclusion and culture work. And he told me to narrow my career. He said, you're too broad. You're interested in too many things. He pretty much said I was too curious and I needed to cool it. And it was really interesting because, again, it was genuine. And he was actually trying to help me. And I think that's the reminder of bad career advice, bad leadership advice specifically, is the person giving it, like it's their perspective. And for him, I was like, oh, maybe you actually had to narrow your field to be successful in a way. Like it's not necessarily that woman who gave you that advice, it came from somewhere.
Yeah.
Now,
Maybe
sometimes it
positive
can come
intent.
from ego. Sometimes it can come from where I want to get, and this is where you need to be. But he really was like, you have to get centered and stop being so interested in inclusion and culture and the law. And, I thought to myself, I'm not going to take this advice,
Yeah,
but I
good.
did sit with it, and it stays with me
Yeah,
as a gift.
interesting.
It's a
Yeah,
gift.
I love that.
It's a gift, and it's an improv term when you give a gift, right?
Yeah.
When you give someone a gift on stage and give them that. But I love that because that was a gift to me. And whenever I find myself getting too narrow, I check myself. And I go, I got to get back to who I am naturally, right?
Love
Like
that.
that's
So you took the opposite.
Yes.
Right? You internalized that in the opposite way.
Yeah.
And that takes such incredible mindset and confidence in yourself, quite honestly. And that's so wild to me that he would give that advice because, right, we always say on the podcast, it's, a jungle gym, not a ladder.
Yes,
right?
I love that.
You have to be able to bounce around to so many different interests and curiosities to really find that path that's going to work for you, especially early in your career.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I was
Yeah.
such a baby. And I think I tell my mentees now, I think of career journeys as hourglass, right? As the shape of an hourglass. Get really broad with it.
Yeah.
Learn everything you can. And then as you work your way up in the industry, you must become an expert in something, right? Like get
got
a
your
little
thing.
honed in,
Yeah.
whatever that is. If it's marketing, if it's law, if it's finance, we need more women in finance. So go, whatever it is, love it. And then the amazing part about leadership is then you work your way up and you're back to being a generalist.
Oh, yeah.
With all that expertise behind you, right?
Yes.
And it's so cool. It's awesome. But I always tell my, early in career and mid career, they get frustrated, right? Because they think they're ready to be an expert and they might be. And you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh, that's so hard because you feel it. We've all been there. We've all been there where we're like, okay, I'm ready for that next step. And sometimes the opportunity isn't there. Sometimes there is a bit of a glass ceiling, or in the LGBTQ community, we call it the lavender ceiling. There's a name for it in every community, right? But that urge to kind of get there. And then I tell them, I said, the generalist work you're doing now, the curious work in all these fields, this is going to benefit you because when you
Yes.
come out of the other side of this hourglass, you gonna need it. You gonna need it.
I love that. Hourglass. That is such a beautiful analogy. And that makes so much sense.
I just made it up, so I feel really confident.
Yes. Oh,
And I'm
that's
sure
your
it's in a
thing.
book somewhere.
Trademarked by Brooke Thomas.
Yes, oh, yes.
Hourglass, yes. That's incredible leadership advice. I love that. And it's so important for the time that we're in right now. Everything's changing. Technology, workforce, just workforce development trends and planning, right? There's so much that goes into the transformation that not just our industry, but really every industry is experiencing right now. And, I've seen those articles and stuff, and it's like you look at Gen Alpha and it's like they're not even going to have regular jobs like us now.
No.
Like AI is going to change the operating model
Absolutely.
of how the workforce, achieves success and gig work and all of that. And so that's really important advice right now. That's really interesting. And so with, this transformation that we're seeing, let's talk about how important, culture is. So when you explain to us your kind of day to day, like your favorite responsibilities that you're working on.
I really like focusing on, I think that's the gap. That gap I was talking about is the formal culture versus the informal culture. And I have to
Yes.
credit my boss, my SVP, Stephanie P.E. Mauna, on this because this is hers. I cannot take credit. I wish I could. It's so brilliant. I'm saying again, it's probably from a book I've never read. But it's, that gap between the formal and informal culture. I love working in that gap. That's what I'm trying to get closer and closer.
strategy.
And it'll never be there. And I think that is okay. At any organization, right? We all, I think every organization build that strategy, build those culture, that the values, whatever you want to call it, the mottos, like
Shared
build
norms,
those shared
beliefs,
norms,
yes.
and then make them aspirational because you also have to make sure you're not putting yourself in a situation where you're going to fail every day, right?
Yeah.
Because I will never get at any organization, I never did, as a consultant, as a full-time employee, as a people leader, that gap to be nothing, right? But it's just closer and closer and closer. So that the employee experience that they were sold on day one is not an empty promise.
Yeah.
And that can be really hard. And that has sometimes it doesn't have much to do with what happens within our four walls, if we're brick and mortar, right? But it has more to do with what they're bringing in from outside. And there's turmoil and there's challenges. And when people face those, I always, I don't know if we're allowed to shout out, it's not an official sponsor, but I love Ryan Holiday. He does a podcast, The Daily Stoic.
Okay.
And I love it because he's a historian and a philosopher, and he talks
Stoicism.
about the power of understanding and reading history. I'm a huge history buff.
Yeah.
Huge history buff. And I love reading about it because when I have team members come to me and talk about the turmoil in the world, and there's so much right now. There's so much upheaval.
Yeah.
What are jobs going to look like for Gen Alpha? Also, poor Gen Alpha came up during the pandemic. Like they already went through so much, and then we're like, oh, we're going to keep throwing things at you. You're going to be fine. Figure out AI.
Yeah.
And all of these
help
things.
us.
I love reading history to remind myself that there has been no time we have been at peace
Yeah. You're
as a
right.
world.
It's not new.
It ain't new, right? There is no time where we're not in upheaval. And it's terrible to say, but some of the, great philosophers and, you read their work and they're finding center, they're finding focus in like 30 world wars, 2 of which they're running. You know what I mean? You're like, how do you do that? Is it a cold plunge?
Is that their
What is
hourglass?
happening? I don't cold plunge. I don't want this rumor to start. But I just, again, history grounds me, particularly American history, in remembering, even in this country, we're a young country. We're still figuring it out, right? And we have had so much progress. But then go over to Europe. You're going to Europe soon, yeah? Go over,
can't
look
wait
at
for
those.
that Euro trip.
Look at those castles.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, we could never. I pass a house from 1890 in this country, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
We have
right?
Excalibur.
Yes, yes, Excalibur. What is that, Bill? Like 55? What is that?
I don't even know.
I love it. Someone tell us. No, but I just, again, those are the pieces where I try not to get caught up in any particular tidal wave or moment.
Yeah.
That's really important for this work.
Yeah.
Transformation, change is inevitable.
Yeah.
Right? It's how you
The only
respond to it.
constant.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's how you respond to it that you can control.
Yeah.
And my teams, I say over and over, I say this to everyone, control the controllables.
Oh, yeah.
What can you control
all you
right
can
now?
do.
And you can look, you can spiral out. There's no question. There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
But when I read, from those who survived and thrived through times of struggle, particularly in American history, that's what grounds me.
That's the mindset. I love that. So Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl is one of my favorite books.
I just
Love.
reread
Oh my
this.
God, it's so good.
What about this
That's
timing?
so
Like I
funny.
just finished it.
It is so good. And he's a Holocaust survivor for those who, have not read the book. But the book is really more about mindset, right? And the
Absolutely.
psychological fortitude that, the survivors of Auschwitz, which he is one of, right, had to go through. And it's all rooted in mindset. And he says, right, forces beyond your control can take everything from you, except for one thing, your freedom to choose how to respond to a situation, right? You can't control what happens to you, but you can control what you do and how you feel about what
Yes.
happens to you. Yes.
The timing's amazing. And
Powerful.
and I love Frankel's philosophy around logotherapy specifically, and this want of what does it look like to find purpose.
Yes.
And I am so grateful to have so much purpose in the culture work I do.
Yeah.
And it can take away your whole day, week, month, year, right? So you got to be careful because I have so much other, I have other purpose, right? And I'm
blended.
exactly. And I'm
Yes.
so grateful. I have just the best wife and the best family, and I'm so lucky to have this family unit and an expanded family unit of both biological family and chosen family,
yes.
right? And just this incredible community, and that you can get lost in the purpose at work, right? And I love my work. And then I have to remember there's so many other avenues of purpose, even in serving my community, particularly the LGBTQ community right now.
Yes, yes. And I think that's so important, the work-life blend, right? I always tell people, I'm like, I don't actually really believe in work-life balance. I think it's blend, right?
Yeah,
If you
oh, no.
love what you're doing, Global Giving Women is not my job, but, I spend so much time with this organization because it means so much to me. And it's given me amazing career development through the passion, it's that beautiful, reciprocity. And
I love it.
Yeah, I think that blend is so
There's
important.
there's no such thing as work-life balance.
Yeah.
I remember when I first started in this industry, and my wife was, I think, just girlfriends at the time. Oh my gosh, we're so old now.
Back in the day, dating.
But and I looked at her and I said, I can do it all. And she laughed and she quotes it. She just finds it hilarious. And I think I was like, started working in this industry. It was just so much taking it in, drinking from a fire hose. And I got home one Friday night after just a really rough week. And I looked at her, I go, I can't do it all. I was just the
Like, I
confident,
realized it.
Rosie the Riveter energy of nope, not today,
Yes.
And I think that
like, "You finally got
ownership
it."
is really important for women, to be like, what can I deprioritize? What can I get off my plate? Because women who can do it, who look like they can do it all, there's this, aura of impossibility. Other
Yeah.
women see it, right? And it's like, look, being vulnerable,
Yes.
is so important. And it's also so important for your leaders or for your teams to see as a leader.
Yeah. Oh, exactly.
know?
That authentic leadership, that is magnetic. That is what, is so foundational to a good culture. What do you think, like what you've seen in business? What are some of your maybe like proudest moments or favorite accomplishments, or what you've seen to be the most impactful in terms of how culture can really impact business results, especially in a crazy transformative time? Whether it's the, AI buzzword journey that we're on right now as an industry and society, or, even if it's something like change within an organization, right? Or M&A activity, like what have been some of your, proudest accomplishments or biggest impacts that you've seen in this work tied to business?
There's so much. And when people say, oh, I don't know if culture ties to the bottom line, take a look at the turnover costs for your organization. And let me tell you what, turnover costs are always undervalued. I always find that, you pull it up and you go, that it is way too low. They're always updating it every 10 years. And I'm like, it's still too low, which is fine. But turnover costs and the loss of engagement. Remember after the pandemic, quiet quitting?
Oh, yeah.
What happened to quiet quitting? Are people still talking about it?
I don't know what people are talking about, but I feel like it's still happening.
It's whatever you want to call it. Disengagement, whatever it is, right? And you're like, and people will say, oh, I want, I'm at this organization. I've been here X long. And I look at them sometimes, and at all different organizations, and also in gaming, I said, do you want to be there? Is this where you want to be? And people will cling, right? The leaders will go, well, I can't lose them. I said, do not hold on to people who don't want to be here. We're not for everyone. No one is for everyone, right?
Yeah.
You go, find your path, find your journey, right? And it's, it's really about, there's good turnover. And that is, I always remind people, find your path, find your journey.
Yeah.
Right? But shifting to what authenticity is and making it contagious at an organization. And
love that.
You're in marketing. I am not in marketing. So I just want to point out, but virology is used in marketing, right? As a tool, the scientific study of viruses, which is not a sexy topic given our last few years, but was
relevant.
Yes, highly relevant. And now even more, there's another virus.
I know.
Watch out, cruisers. But, it's using, making a culture shift contagious with authenticity and being real. And I'll use an example, and I'll give a shout out to American Gaming Association. I must. When I reached out to them the year before last, to launch LGBTQ in gaming, which is the first national, hopefully international someday organization.
It will be.
We have a Connect in Toronto. We did it. We're international.
Yes, you're global.
We're global. We're not global gaming women. So, when I called AGA, Joe Maloney, who was their SVP of communications at the time, incredible guy, and I called him, and when I say this was a cold call. Okay, when I say I met him at a G2E mixer or something,
that's a warm call.
And talk about allyship. You want to talk about male allyship? We get on a call. I said, I have this crazy idea, and this man did not blink. He goes, "Yep,
love that.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
What do you need to be successful?" And I just hung up the phone, and I was in shock. And now we have an entire organization. We've launched. We have events that are regional. We have education experiences. We're connecting with what can feel like isolating, just like women, members of the LGBTQ community, the intersections of those with race and gender and ethnicity. There's so much isolation in our community. We move all over for opportunities.
Again.
Yeah, we can lose some of those communities in the move. So building a community that certainly is focused on now networking. We know that's important in our industry, but also on philanthropy.
Yeah.
How are you making your community better than when you found it?
Yeah.
However that is. It doesn't have to even be within the LGBTQ community, but Joe is such a good example of that. And I had an opportunity, LGBTQ in gaming was on the G2E floor last year, and an executive connected with me after. And again, you get a reach out from someone at a level that he was at, and you're like, how did you get this number? And he was like, I was so amazed at your panel, and my team didn't know why I wanted to go.
Oh.
And he was gay.
Yeah.
But he just, it was detached from his day-to-day, right? He's from a different generation.
Yeah.
He's from a different generation. they didn't talk about their families. They didn't talk about their lives. That could risk losing their job.
Yeah.
And his team didn't even know why he wanted to go to the LGBTQ panel.
And he finally found that acceptance.
Yeah, and his voice to go, well, why wouldn't I, right?
Yeah.
And I think that it's always a reminder, I'm a millennial generation. Gen Alpha's
Yeah.
fearless. They're going to blow it all up. I love them. But we have Gen Xers in the community and boomers in our gaming community that are still in a process, right?
Yeah.
And are still figuring it out and are still carrying what is decades, right? Of challenges around bringing your authentic self. So when I say bring your authentic self to work, like, let's just remind ourselves that's just a phrase.
Yeah.
What are you doing at an organization to equip people to feel safe enough to bring themselves to work? And safety is, psychological safety is the number one driver of innovation.
You're right.
You cannot take risks without safety.
You're right. And there is so much data around that. It is not just anecdotal.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so powerful. And, I think that once again, a lot of times people, might think that it's fluffy or high level or buzzwordy, but you're exactly right. You cannot have an innovative environment that thrives without that high trust culture of vulnerability, of safety, of authenticity. I mean, there are, I've seen stats out there where organizations, I think it was Open to Work, might have been the study, but organizations achieve more than 5x revenue when it's tied to a high trust environment.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
I mean, huge.
And that feels low.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, we even saw that internally at Insight Global. We went through an entire culture transformation. This was almost 10 years ago at this point. And our intentionality behind it was to reduce employee attrition. And we did successfully, right? Our attrition is now less than 15. I think it's even less than 10%. So that was successful. We didn't realize what the biggest impact was going to be, which actually was on revenue. We more than doubled revenue within 5 years just because of culture injections. No M&A activity, no crazy big new expansion or divisions. It was purely the injection of culture and the amazing, shared values, the amazing, right, Diversity Council, Women's Leadership Council, Merit-Based Fridays Off, LTIP from day one, right, Insight Global, Family Foundation, our grant assistance program, just really taking care of our people and creating that environment where people truly can thrive. And we doubled in revenue. Wild.
And that's incredible. I mean, what an incredible culture story. If you're not writing an article, you should. Absolutely, because that's just such an incredible story. And I think it's just a reminder, we look so much to other organizations and it's like, get your house in order, whatever that is, whatever that house is, you know, it might just be your department. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? But what can you do? And I'm an avid reader and I'm going to come out. Not as queer, I've already done that, as a reader of books, and I don't do the audiobooks. And I know it's I need to catch on. I know I need to do the audiobooks.
But I like a real book.
I do too. I love the feeling.
Yes, exactly.
I'm such a Luddite.
With books. They're stacked up everywhere.
Oh, I love it.
Kitchen.
I love it. My wife will send me a photo of my nightstand, and it looks like something out of Beauty and the Beast, with all the stacks. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm in the middle of 80 books.
Yes, I know. I like to read multiple at a time too.
But I love it. And I'm such an avid reader, and I really encourage my teams to read. It also comes from my boss. We both are avid readers, and we'll trade books and we'll talk about them. And what I love to do is also read books of people I disagree with, right? I always love challenging my belief systems. I'm reading a book right now. I'm not going to say the author, but I'm really struggling with him and his feelings. But it's so great because
you're getting that perspective.
I'm getting that perspective that it's helping me understand, what the challenge is with culture is people think everyone's going to agree. And the joy of leaning into disagreements with curiosity and differences, what real differences are, differences in values, differences in belief systems, that's the hard stuff.
Yeah.
This is not soft.
Yeah.
This is not, culture's not soft, okay? This is the hard work. I'm not changing how you think. You're not changing how I think, right? But how do we get aligned?
Exactly.
Yes.
And how do we find alignment?
And I want those differences in the room.
Yeah.
But
you have to have diversity of thought.
Absolutely. Yeah. But people go, oh, I want diversity of thought. I go, then you will have conflict.
Yes.
Get ready and figure out how you're gonna manage it.
Yeah.
Right? We manage conflict, right? We manage conflict, not people. We lead people. And how you're gonna do that. Because when you start forgetting to manage the conflict, you start managing the people, you're going to lose them. You got to lead the people and manage the conflict.
It's very complex.
Keep that. Honestly. Exactly. Yeah. And I think right now we're feeling those differences more deeply because of so many factors.
I think society
and the
fear.
Fear. Yeah. AI is just one of those things. People are floating it around and saying it. And everyone's like, do we know what that is? Yeah. And there's this, it's tangible. But this industry, our country, our world.
Yeah.
I mean, imagine living through the death of the automobile industry as we knew it. Imagine living through the transformation and move of Hollywood from Chicago to LA. I mean, we have examples of massive industry transformations, right? And the automobile industry has evolved and come back in many ways. And Hollywood's fine, so we're not worried about them. But you know what I mean? Like, we have these examples of, you know, you have to evolve. You have to go with the flow. You have to change it. So go with the tidal waves, but don't let them sweep you away.
Yeah. And the fear, I think, is misplaced in a lot of ways, but it comes down, the fear around AI, I should say. But it comes down to culture, people, change management, transformation, and all of the people areas alongside the technology. Like, I went to this amazing AI conference last year, HumanX. It was last March at Fontainebleau. And it was all technology executives, right? Everyone's talking about AI. But what was funny is that every single panel, keynote, roundtable, one-on-one meeting that you had, these technology executives, they didn't actually want to talk about tools, models, anything like that. They wanted to talk about culture. They wanted to talk about how can we build a culture of innovation and adoption where transformation will stick, and how do we talk about a culture where we can upskill and develop and bring people right along with the transformation. And we just had a great episode, you know, a few episodes ago with Megan Azevedo from Venetian, Senior Manager of Data Science. And, you know, we were talking about, you know, the topic of AI, but you can't talk about AI and AI implementation and transformation without first starting with data. And then it's great to have this conversation because you also cannot talk about that without talking about the people side. There has to be that alignment, right, with culture evolution and workforce, you know, adoption, innovation, et cetera, if you want any sort of, you know, AI technology transformation to stick.
I have the best model right between my two ears, right? Humans are amazing.
You got to have the human in the loop.
You do. You're amazing, right? And we forget that. And it can feel really overwhelming. And, you know, AI is an incredible tool, right? With the human, you know, humans propelling it, right? And shaping that. And I think it's so exciting. And I also love, I know it's used all the time. It's used with our kids, right? And I don't have kids, but I have nephews, so I rent a kid.
Same.
Auntie Brooke, you know. But you know, when we talk about garbage in, garbage out, right? And I've caught them watching things on YouTube. I'm like, you change that, right? I'm like, please don't watch that. That's mean spirited, and we want it right because I think that same thing, and it's the same thing. You know, we think about with AI, and that's where humans have to be vigilant because, you know, you really have to keep an eye on how your organizations and your teams and your leaders are using the tool because it can really, again, not serve innovation. And it can make us feel like we can, again, sit back on our heels and not stay nimble and not stay up on the balls of our feet. And I think that is my biggest risk is just humans thinking, oh, AI can do X. And it's like, okay, wait, before that, right, what does this look like, right? To keep this critical thought, to understand that the real genius of humanity is what we can do with our brains. AI is impersonating us. We're the ultimate goal, right?
That's a soundbite right there.
Okay, great.
That
I don't know. This is not my world, okay?
That is so right.
Like, right? Isn't that what we're trying to do?
That is so right. And that's absolutely what we need to keep in mind. And there has to be that alignment of data, AI, people. You can't do anything in silos, right? It has to all be together for any of this to be successful. Oh, I love it.
I'm so glad I made that up. Again, I'm making up some real hot takes today.
That was so good. Well, okay, so our favorite way to close out every Spotlight Series episode is always asking our guests the biggest compliment or the best or most impactful compliment that you've ever received and how it really changed the trajectory, perhaps, of your life or your career. So kind of the opposite of that bad leadership
advice.
Yes,
I love it. Well, you can't ask everyone the worst leadership advice they got, but there's some doozies out there. It's a fun cocktail topic if you're ever at a happy hour and you need something to do.
That's a good one.
All right, so the biggest compliment I got. The offer letter from my now boss.
Oh, love that.
That's like, look, women supporting women. She's incredible. I can't even tell you. I mean, I came into the organization and within a year, the whole team was like, you know, you need to be promoted. And they put me through the interview process and, you know, I got that offer letter to be VP. I had been a director. And I just was floored. And it was her belief in me. And there is power in that offer letter, that there's allyship, there's support. there's belief. And look, she rides for me now. I mean, she's supportive of my career. She's supportive of having a queer leader that is often the only LGBTQ representative in the room, who's also a woman. And she goes, yeah, you got this, right? And she believes in me. But I just don't think you can understate, it's emotional, but the power of opportunity.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And everyone could tell you, you're amazing. Oh my gosh, you're awesome. And I'm like, that's great. Like, where's my opportunity to show you?
Yes. Who is going to open that door?
Yes.
And you get that affirmation of potential, but I love what you're talking about in terms of affirmation of opportunity.
Yes.
That's incredible.
Oh, that's the soundbite.
Oh my gosh.
So shouts to Stephanie P. E. Mauna. I've said your name a few times on here, but again, I've had amazing male leaders as well.
Yeah.
But she's the one who saw something in me that even I doubted.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And that is a new one for compliments. And I love the way that that is a compliment, right? It really is. It's that
Absolutely.
affirmation.
Opportunity for growth comes in a lot of different forms, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's that offer letter.
Yeah.
Get that offer letter.
She opened that door, and obviously you've crushed it. You know,
I mean, I'm still here.
Yes.
And I'm here with you. So I did
Yes.
something. I did one or two things right.
Yes, I no doubt you're doing an incredible job within, but especially right even beyond, you know, your company and the wider industry. It's just it's so fun to see. I'm so proud to know you. So,
Oh, likewise. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yes. There we go. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. You're the best.